This video clip covers lesson practice number 1 from set 1 from this section of the notes. And if you remember from the reading, it talks about the quadratic formula and how it is helpful for solving second-degree equations. Well, even more helpful is the graphing calculator because we can use the store option to help us do the calculations of the quadratic formula. So what you need to do first is you need to look at your second-degree equation, make sure it's set equal to 0. This one is. And so I'm just going to write down the quadratic formula, which is negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now I like to write this down because when I go to enter it in my calculator, I like to look back at it and make sure I don't miss anything. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to get our a, b, and c values. I'm going to state them right here. And I would highly recommend writing these out when you do your problem. So the a, if you remember, is in front of, it's the coefficient in front of the x squared, which is 1. The b is the coefficient in front of the x term, which is 8. And c is the other term, the constant, which is 7. Now that I have these stated, I'm going to go over to my calculator and store each one of these inside of the a, b, and c variable on my calculator. And I'm going to do that all at once. I'm going to take 1, store, and I have to hit alpha math to bring up a, and then I need to use a colon, and I'm going to store 8 into my b, separate that with another colon, and then we have 7 stored into C. Hit enter, and 7 appears here because that was the last item that I stored, but the rest of these have been stored. And now I'm just going to enter in this formula. So I'm going to use parentheses around the top here if you want to enter this in all at once. You need to use parentheses around your top. So I'm going to put down parenthesis, negative b, plus. Now I'm going to do one calculation at a time. I cannot do the plus minus all at once, so I'm going to do the plus first, write down my answer, and then I'll do the minus. So I got negative b plus the square root. Sorry about that. Used to hitting the alpha key. So we need b squared minus 4ac. Now I need to close the parentheses to my radical. And then I also need to close the parentheses to my numerator. It's this red parenthesis here that I'm putting in now. So that numerator is all bunched together. I'm going to divide it by, I'm going to use parentheses around the 2a. So I'm going to type in 2 alpha a, close my parentheses, hit enter. And so I have negative 1 for my first answer. Let's write that down. So we have x is equal to negative 1 for the first answer. So instead of typing this back in, again, it's timely, I'm just going to hit second, enter, and it brings up the last entry. I use the second function to enter, and it's entry. So I'm going to use the up button, go to where the plus sign is, and now I'm going to switch it to that negative, or subtraction sign, I should say. So now all I have to do is hit enter, and I'll have my other answer, which is negative 7. So let's write that down. So we have x equals 1, and x equals negative 7. Let's group those together in a solution set. And we have our answers to this problem. So let's take a look at this problem. The equation reads y squared is equal to 24 minus 5y. So this one is not set equal to 0. Now when you go to set this equal to 0, if you're going to use the graphing calculator and the store option, it doesn't really matter how you solve this. Now if you're doing this out by hand, I would highly recommend, and this is what I tell my students all the time, to keep your y squared positive. So let's just do that. If our y squared is going to remain positive, that means I'm going to move these two terms over to the left side. To do that, I need to add a 5y here, and you'd add a 5y there, and you would have y squared, oops, I want the black ink here, y squared plus 5y is equal to, and the 24 is still over there, and let's move that over now, minus 24 over here, and we will have y squared plus 5y minus 24 is equal to 0. Let's go ahead and write down the quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Let's get our a, b, and c values. And our a value is 1. Our b value is 5. Our c value is negative 24. And I should have done this on the last clip, but you really should show the substitutions inside of this formula, because that's kind of showing some work for this problem. So let's just do that. We're going to have x equals negative, and we'll put the 5 right in there, plus minus the square root of 5 squared minus 4 times 1 times my c value of negative 24 all over 2 times the 1. Alright, so I'm going to have to really scrunch my work up over here in this space. But make sure your radical goes over the whole radic in here. And now we're ready to go to our calculator. So let's enter these values in. We are going to store 1 into the a, separate with a colon, and let's put 5 into our b, and then finally let's put negative 24, and make sure you use the negative sign, not the subtraction sign, negative 24 into our c. Hit enter, and negative 24 pops up, so these were stored correctly. And let's put in our quadratic formula. So we have negative b, oh, forgot to use my parentheses here. Well, let me show you another way of doing this that's different from the other clip. If you get confused with using all those parentheses, just do this in 2 parts. Let's enter in the numerator first. So let's just enter in negative b plus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, close that parentheses, and so this is our whole numerator that we just entered in. Hit enter, and there's our answer 6 for the numerator. Now we're going to divide that by 2a. Oh, let's put in 2 first, parentheses here, 2a. So this is kind of maybe an easier way of entering in the quadratic formula in 2 steps, so you don't have to worry about having enough parentheses and things like that. So let's hit enter, and we have 3. So that is our first answer. X is equal to 3. So let's get our second answer. So I'm going to hit second entry again to bring up the entry up here, and I'm going to switch that positive or that addition sign to a subtraction sign. Hit enter, and we have negative 16 as our numerator this time. Divide that by the 2a, and I'm just going to type this in. It's quick. Hit enter, and we have negative 8 as our other answer. So let me write that down. So we have x is equal to negative 8. And so let's put this in a solution set. Negative 8, comma, 3 are 2 solutions. So there you go. So finish off lesson practice number 2, and then go on to the new lesson if you want.